ready? You have any questions?
Are we good?
I've done this before.
Hello, College Park. It is 6 p.m. It is October 31st. Happy Halloween. I have with myself today two awesome baseball fans, Max Breen, Boston Red Sox fan, and the one and only Tom Casey, big Nats fan. And
Happy to be here.
yeah, we're definitely going to talk a lot of World Series today. So I guess opening comments about the World Series. Tom, what do you think?
Well, it went right down to Game 7, and that was a nail-biter, let me tell you. When the Nationals were down 1-0 and for the first 5 innings, man, I didn't think they were going to do it. But as they have every single time this postseason, they have clawed back and stayed in the fight.
Max, comments?
It was an interesting series. No team won a game at home. I don't know if I've ever seen that before in a World
Can
Series.
we talk about that? Like, what do you guys think was up with that? Like, I know in baseball it's only 40,000 fan stadium, so it's not as big of a thing as, let's say, football.
Something that I was thinking about while I was watching it was like, it's like weird to like think about, but like, could it be that the Nats, like the way that their team is made up, like that they're better suited for the Astros stadium, and like vice versa, the Astros play better in the Nats stadium?
It could be.
I was really like surprised like that actually happened. Like I don't understand why, but like it's these things happen every year. Something every year.
Right,
like
and
this
the
happens.
Nationals are the oldest team in baseball on average, and it's not like they're young guys with all the pressure at home with the fans cheering and like mounting on them. You know, they're seasoned veterans. They know how to play baseball with the crowd. You know.
I didn't even know that they were oldest.
Their older players really came up big too. I mean, look at Howie Kendrick.
Howie Kendrick was the bell of the
Ryan
ball.
Zimmerman had a great playoffs.
The last playoff run the Nationals tried to make before this, when they lost in the NLDS to who was it, the Cubs, or was it the one after that?
I don't know.
But they didn't play Howie Kendrick at all. He was producing all season long, and then in the NLDS they just benched him. He just got a couple at bats. He produced in those couple at bats. I think he got several hits, but his presence in this playoff run was absolutely what made it.
Veteran experience is huge when it comes to the playoffs in any sport.
Definitely. And how much of a veteran presence is the reason why the Nationals won this series? I mean, this team like took it game by game, and their manager was like, "Let's go 1-0 today. Tomorrow, let's go 1-0." And like it was very impressive. I don't know how they did it. It was a very interesting series.
I think the biggest thing for the Nats was their team chemistry. I mean, they just seemed like they were a team that was having fun every day. You know, with all their clubhouse celebrations and everything. They just seemed like a really fun team. Yeah, Baby Shark, as much as that song started to really annoy me. But yeah, the whole tradition and all that, they just seemed like a really fun team with great team chemistry. The Astros obviously had the talent advantage. You can't deny that. Mm-hmm. But
no,
the Nationals were the better team.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, honestly, Baby Shark did get old rather quickly. Fun, but it did get old.
I didn't even see Para like one at bat in that series.
Although he's a fun guy.
Para is that specialized pinch hitter because the National League is going to have to need those pinch hitters when the pitcher has to bat. Mm-hmm. So next talking point: did Patrick Corbin? Did he do bad in the World Series? Did he do bad in the postseason? I think he definitely underperformed as a starting pitcher, but would you have liked to see more out of him from this series? I think he pitched like 7 innings total, probably gave up 4 or 5 runs or something like that.
So he's in a very tough position because he's on a staff with Max Scherzer and Steven Strasburg, who will go out there and throw the best playoff baseball you've ever seen on a good day, right? You cannot compete with those guys when they're on their stuff. And so Corbin, he is a good pitcher, and he performed up to pretty good standards given all the pressure in the playoffs. It's not to say he was a clutch pitcher, but he definitely performed, and I was happy with his performance. It's not the outcome that we wanted while he was pitching, but in Game 7 when he came in for relief, he really.
I was going to say, how long did he come in for last night? Was
2 innings.
2 innings?
Yep.
And he did pretty well, right?
He was in the 7th and maybe the 8th too.
Okay.
Yep.
He had a pretty poor Game 4, I think. They lost that game, but I think he might have redeemed himself in Game 7. And obviously they didn't need too much from him because they were getting Great pitching out of Strasburg, obviously, and Scherzer. Not as much after his injury, but still as much as he could give them. It was still good.
Right, and I also want to talk about our relief pitching, not just
the relievers for the Nats some of them at least were really great.
I want to talk about the closers specifically. Yeah. They were stunning, nothing short of stunning. They've always had problems with closing. They've always had problems with relief. Ever since they lost Craig Stammen back in 2013, they've been missing that long reliever to deliver a close game to the closers. And in the playoffs, you're particularly set up to use starting pitchers for that. So I think the Nationals do have an advantage in playoff series, but their closers really sealed it down this time.
Yeah, Doolittle, Hudson, and Rainey looked really good in the playoffs.
Having the trio of closers instead of just putting one guy in every night, because in the 7-game series, they're Major League Baseball players at the bat. They'll get used to seeing particular pitchers. They'll see what they're going to throw and what kind of situations, and they'll get really good at adapting to the way a pitcher pitches over a 7-game series, especially if they see the same guy every single night from the 9th inning.
Definitely. So, at Strasburg, how historic was his performance this World Series? He was lights out, literally one of the best 2 starts you could give a team against in the biggest stage of the game. How historic was his performance?
I mean, throughout the playoffs, I think you have to say it's pretty historic because I believe he is the first and only pitcher ever to go 5-0 in a single postseason. There's like 2 other pitchers, I think, historically who have had 5 wins in a single postseason, but each of those guys had a loss. So Strasburg went 5-0 this postseason. I think he's the first pitcher to ever do that. So that by itself is really historic. And then if you talk about his 2 starts in the World Series, those were arguably his 2 best starts of the entire season. And they came when his team needed it most. And I think you got to feel really good for Steven Strasburg. Just think about what he went through, being a first overall pick with all those expectations, and then he had a bunch of injuries, some bad seasons. People were saying maybe he's a dud, maybe he's not going to live up to those expectations. And then this year, he could arguably win the NL Cy Young, maybe. I mean, he had a fantastic regular season. And then in the playoffs, he took it to another level. I mean, he's one of the best pitchers, it looks like now, in all of MLB.
I think he had one of his best seasons as a pitcher between this and last year. His best seasons as a pitcher. And he's one of those guys that as he gets older, he becomes a better pitcher. His arm isn't getting tired. That's pretty clear. And he just has such a wicked curveball that it has guys bailing out of the box when it falls in for a strike. And there are just very few guys that have that kind of talent with that kind of pitch. And at that point, your arm strength starts to matter less. And it's just about your talent as a pitcher.
That's actually a really good point. All of the national starters are like big name veterans and like guys who have like a great track record, and like it really showed like when they need the endurance and the postseason and the leadership, they definitely had. That's one of the big reasons why they had a better team. This is like it was very, very fun team to watch, whether on the field or in the dugout or in the clubhouse. Those guys loved each other, and I definitely think it got them through tough times. The Nationals were 19-31 around May 26th.
Yep.
And I think it was the worst record for any team to go win it all at any point during the season. And it was like the worst 50-game record. 19-31 is 12 games below 500. So for the Nationals to go out and turn their whole season around when people said they should be selling almost, and it's almost comparable to St. Louis Blues coming back and winning the Stanley Cup.
I think it's very, very comparable. And I hate to say it as a Bruins fan, but it's very similar to what the Blues did in the NHL last year, starting off with one of the worst records in the league, and then down the stretch they finished as the best team record-wise over that second half of the season in the league. And then going into the playoffs with all that momentum, both the Nationals and the Blues in their respective leagues ended up winning. So.
Yeah, the Blues, I think, made a bigger mountainous comeback than the Nationals did just because they fired their coach as well. They fired their coach, and the brand new coach came in, and the Blues just came back, and they got on fire. And sometimes the postseason about who gets hot at the best moments.
I think it's who comes in hot. Who comes in with the momentum. You know what I mean?
Who comes into the playoffs with the momentum. I think the Nationals lost like 5 games in the last month or so.
Coming into the playoffs, they were on a hot streak. They'd won 8 games in a row, and I think before the World Series started, they were 20-2 for the last 22 games.
Yeah,
which was no.
So Nick, you brought up coaching. So on that note, do you think Dave Martinez is going to be or should be the NL Manager of the Year this year?
Yeah, that was my next point. Like, I don't like Davey Martinez as a manager. I definitely have questioned a lot of his in-game decisions, but in regards to leadership, he does like keep the clubhouse together. He's definitely a lot of glue, and it's very impressive what he's done with the clubhouse and keeping them in faith and keeping the team together. He's analogous to John Harbaugh. Like John Harbaugh, he's excellent leadership, but his in-game decisions are not the best, and sometimes I disagree, and sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't, and it doesn't really matter sometimes if you just got a good team.
In-game decisions are really part of a manager's job. You know, I think the biggest part for a manager in at least baseball is to get the players, you know, ready to go, get them hyped up, let them have fun with it, and you know, you build that team chemistry in the clubhouse. Like, you know, having the whole baby shark thing and really fighting for the players too. Like when that horrendous call was made against Trey Turner in Game 6.
Game 6.
Yeah, that was Game 6. Davey was out there in between innings. He was he was furious.
He was definitely furious. He was the first manager to get ejected in a World Series game since Bobby Cox in 1997. So it was definitely see, that's like one thing that I don't like from the manager is like, you can't get ejected from this game. Like, I don't care how bad the call was. You have to control yourself. You cannot get ejected. And you are so important to this team. And when there's no manager, you're
clearly he wasn't that important, right? The Nats were the Nats losing Game 6 when he got ejected, or was it tied?
I think they were winning.
They went on to win the game without him.
They did win the game. Yeah.
So I don't think, you know. I mean, obviously the manager is important when it comes to like in-game strategy, things like, you know, should the guy bunt here? Should we steal a base? You know. But stuff like that, I mean, whoever, you know, the assistant coach, whoever comes in to manage after he gets thrown out can make decisions like that. The manager already made a lot of the tactical decisions before the game. So,
yeah. Also, a part of a manager's job is managing the bullpen. He didn't really have a bullpen to manage.
Right. So a manager's only as good as the team that he has to manage, right? And Rizzo's, to start off the season, really neglected the bullpen. They got a really good you know, lineup behind the plate, but every time you get into the 7th inning, you know, the manager's hands are tied because he can't close the game out the way he needs to.
Yeah, I definitely think Dave Martinez just let his starters pitch for as long as they can, and he made 2 or 3 pitching changes a game maximum, and he just kept going to his best guys. And I would like to see a statistic on like how many bullpen pitchers did not pitch in an entire World Series, because I know the Nationals had a handful, and sometimes I ask, why did you even have them on the roster? They had a couple guys pitching
garbage time. Some guys I'd never heard of.
Honestly, Joe Ross, he was actually like one of the pitchers that like are garbage, but like he's like okay, and he ended up starting Game 5, and Joe Ross did not he did what was asked of him. He got through some innings, 5 innings, 4 runs. He gave his team a chance to win, and like that's like what you could expect out of a pitcher like that. So it was encouraging, but yeah, a difficult bullpen to manage, and sometimes you just have to go resort to your $200 million starters.
So what do you think the future looks like for Anthony Rendon? Is he coming back to the Nats?
That's a really tough question because I don't know the salary cap issue.
Well, do you think he wants to come back to the Nats?
Oh yeah, I think if he's gonna go wherever, like they already offered him like 7 years, $210
million, I think.
The same thing as Scherzer, same contract as Scherzer, and it's just a matter of like, if you sign Rendon, can you sign Soto? If you sign Rendon, can you extend Strasburg? And I think those are 3 core guys that you got to keep around and do whatever you have to do that.
I mean, this is something that's plaguing the Red Sox right now, and they just brought in a new chief baseball officer, Chaim Bloom, to try and sort it all out. You know, they're trying to figure out, can we keep Mookie Betts, JD Martinez, We're paying all this money to guys like Chris Sale, David Price, some other players who have underperformed, at least this year, and they got to try and figure out if they can keep some of their best players. And with the financial situation going on in Boston, I don't know if that's going to happen.
And going back to the Nationals, the Steven Strasburg has an opt-out clause in his contract this year.
That's the deal with JD. Yeah. JD Martinez has an opt-out. So
what do you guys think the Nationals and Strasburg are going to do?
If Strasburg does opt out, it's only because he's going to get signed to a new contract.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think it would get signed to a new contract with the Nationals.
Really?
I mean, whenever it comes to opt-out clauses, I usually expect players to opt out because, that's assuming that they, are still at the top of their game. I mean, obviously, if a player had a really bad season and he has an opt-out clause, he's not going to opt out because then he's going to get less money. But if we're talking about a guy like Strasburg or JD Martinez, guys who are at the top of their game right now, I expect them to opt out so they can get more money in a new contract. Why would they opt in when they would be making less money that way?
That's like a really good point too. If you do opt out, but you don't get a higher salary, you're certainly not going to get a lower salary, especially after what Strasburg did. But you're right. You should only stay in the contract if you are going to not get paid enough.
Yeah.
So I want to move on to another big question. Did the Astros mess up or do anything bad in order to lose the series? I'm just trying to think. Was there a key thing for the Astros' weaknesses that the Nationals kept attacking and winning, or was it an even match and the Nationals just ended out on top?
It was their bullpen, man. Most of the Nationals' runs were scored after the 7th inning.
That's so true.
Yeah, Zach Greinke gave up only one run.
Yep.
After he came out, that's when the 2-run homer was hit to put the Nats up, and that was against Will Smith, I believe, his name?
Yeah.
Yeah, so the Astros reliever. And then they scored, 3 more runs after that on Astros relievers. They end up winning the game 6-2.
Yep.
And the Astros starter only gave up 1 run.
Yeah, and the relievers, they tried to, the boat was leaking. They tried to plug the holes, but they couldn't do it no matter who they put in. And,
I think the Astros bullpen is probably the biggest to blame on their part.
Do you think A.J. Hinch did a bad job managing the bullpen, or is it on the pitchers that they should have just pitched better?
There was one of the commentators, I think it might have been Joe Buck last night when I was watching the game, and he mentioned, I believe when Howie Kendrick was coming up to bat, that was when they brought in Will Smith instead of Osuna, right? So they brought in Smith, who apparently had pitched 11 games already in the playoffs, or 12 games or something, and he was saying that he was already he was tired because he had been pitching so much. And so they were saying, why bring in Will Smith to face Howie Kendrick when you've got a guy like Osuna that you could bring in? He's your closer, but obviously at this point, Game 7 of the World Series, you should bring your closer in right away to shut it down before it gets even worse. And they brought in Will Smith instead of Osuna. So I think that was a bad decision. I think A.J. Hinch should have brought in Osuna sooner.
Right, and even David Martinez, before Game 7 said, if you got a Nationals uniform on, I'm going to ask you if you're ready to pitch. Strasburg pitched Game 6. And Martinez asked him, "Hey, I might need you to pitch tonight." And that's just the Game 7 attitude that you need to have. And
Game 7 is always all hands on deck.
Right. It does. You have 3 months of rest after that. It doesn't matter what you do that night. You just gotta get the job done.
Definitely. And what was I gonna say? Give me a second here. Well, I can take a commercial break if you want to chime in on the discussion, or if you want to tune in at all, you can find us on YouTube at Anything Goes WMC Sports Radio, or you can call or text in at 443-567-1837. Once again, you can call or text in at 443-567-1837. We're going to be talking a lot of World Series. We have talked a lot of World Series. Do you want to scope out to
before we move on, I just want to correct myself.
Okay.
I've been saying Will Smith the whole time. The pitcher's name is Will Harris. It's Will Harris.
Oh, and then there's Joe Smith.
Yeah. So I've been talking
these
about
classic names.
Will Harris. I kept on saying Will Smith. So correcting myself there.
Okay. Well, regardless, Joe Smith, Joe Schmo, same difference. The Washington Nationals are your World Series champions. Nats fans, you please attend the parade on whatever date that is. That has not been determined.
2 p.m. Saturday, November 2nd.
Are you serious?
During the Maryland Michigan game.
Oh my god!
Guess what I'm going to?
Yeah.
Wait, it's during the Maryland-Michigan game?
Yep.
Are you serious?
Ooh.
God, now like I was planning to go home this weekend, but now I might just have to stay. I didn't.
And how many World Series parades are you going to get to go to in your life? That's how I think about it, you know?
I agree. I went to Game 5 of the World Series, and I'm like thinking I might never go to the World Series again. So I just shelled out $500, and they said, "It's just money. I'll just get it back at some point." So I guess, do you want to scope out to like larger MLB issues with the free agency period, or do you want to talk NFL? Or does any of our viewers...
Let's stay on baseball for a little bit longer.
Yeah,
Okay.
There's one more Nationals thing, and I know you guys are sick of hearing about the Nationals, but one more Nationals.
I'm not sick of hearing about the Nationals.
We're hype. Howie
Harper.
Kendrick?
Bryce Harper.
Yes.
Okay.
Bryce Harper made a bold prediction earlier this season.
But do you think that Bryce Harper's lack of presence in the Washington Nationals enabled them to get to this level?
No.
Oh, I think the Nats were definitely better because Bryce Harper was gone.
Yeah, Max, I'm going to agree with you on this one.
So I'm gonna make a little bit of a basketball comparison here to try and think about this. So it's 4 games into the season, so it's not too much evidence yet. But the Celtics this year, without Kyrie Irving, I think look a lot better. And Kyrie Irving is a great player. But the problem with great players like Kyrie Irving and Bryce Harper is that the team ends up kind of relying on them too much to carry the team. When you remove a player like a Kyrie Irving or a Bryce Harper, it requires other players like your Howie Kendricks and your Ryan Zimmermans, or in the Celtics case, guys like Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown.
Right.
It requires them to I guess, carry a heavier load and put more responsibility on their own shoulders. And then that kind of helps with team chemistry, I think, rather than relying on one superstar player to carry your team. It kind of requires everyone to work together, and I think that's what happened with the Nats.
Right, absolutely. In Bryce Harper, he's such a one-man team that I don't think he really plays to necessarily have the team win. He just wants to win. He wants to be on the highlight reel. He wants to make the best plays, which sometimes that can incidentally help out the team. But if, he tries to steal third on an obvious double, then try to make the highlight reel and gets thrown out by a large margin, that hurts the team, the amount that he's signed for and the amount that he's producing over in Philadelphia, they're not equitable, right?
And look how great the Phillies did this year with Bryce Harper. They didn't make the playoffs.
That's definitely like really good points. But one thing I would like to argue is that the Nationals, without the absence of Bryce Harper, did not promote the Nationals winning the World Series. The Nationals would have won the World Series with or without Bryce Harper.
I don't know about that.
The only reason I am making this argument is because the Nationals offered Bryce Harper a $300 million contract before the end of last season. The Nationals would not have offered Bryce Harper that contract if they didn't think he fit in, or at least a contract of $300 million. They might have offered him a $200 million contract, but if he didn't fit in and if he was a bad clubhouse guy, I think that they would have not made an offer. Like Manny Machado, obviously the Orioles were not in position to extend Manny Machado, but Manny Machado, maybe not the best clubhouse guy, maybe not the best leader, but he does what he's told. He does his job very well, and that's what you ask of him. And he's not a clubhouse problem, but he's not a clubhouse leader either. So I think that's one of the reasons why the Orioles didn't extend Machado. But
a guy like Machado, yes, he does what he's told. He's a good ball player, but he doesn't try to make himself the star of the show and just showboat all the time like Bryce Harper. Right?
I think the problem is that players like Bryce Harper they kind of have like these larger than life personalities, and I think that kind of disrupts team chemistry. I don't think Antonio Brown was ever going to work out in the Patriots locker room if he had been there for longer. Because he has that larger than life personality. And the Patriots have great team chemistry, and I don't think that ever would have worked out. And I think it's kind of the same. I mean, it's not the same. I'm not saying Antonio Brown and Bryce Harper are the same, but in terms of team chemistry, I think Bryce Harper having that larger than life personality, and everyone always talks about Bryce Harper. They don't talk about the rest of the Nats. Removing him from the equation, I think it makes the team chemistry work better because he's not there anymore.
I agree, but I still think, with or without him, the Nationals still would have went on to win the series.
Who knows?
Who knows? Yeah. Okay. Our viewers have not made one comment yet, all two of them. So I'm sorry, but I need some more talking points. Does anybody have any other talking points?
Well, do you want to move on from baseball? I have something else.
Let me just mention one thing about Howie Kendrick because it's on our list. Howie Kendrick, I think he had 5 go-ahead homers this postseason, something like that. He tied a World Series record. Definitely. And Anthony Rendon, I think he had like 8 plate appearances in the 7th inning or later in elimination games, and it was like walk, double, home run, double, home run, double, home run. Anthony Rendon did that. Like, this team, when the bullpen came in, the Nationals took advantage of it, and so applauding them, very happy for them. Do you think? Okay, I got another talking point about baseball, and I don't know if you guys have any opinion on this, but does the Orioles organization suffer from the Nationals W? Curly W.
Well, they're in the same market, right? Both areas get Masson, and but when the Orioles were really good a few years ago, and the Nationals, were not so hot. I think the area did stay true to the Nationals. You didn't see many new Orioles fans popping up where Nationals fans had just started, right? And with the Nationals, yes, it's always an uphill battle because they're such a new team, still less than 20 years old. And they're still gonna have to fight for regions like Frederick or the area between D.C. and Baltimore, and in generally the rest of Maryland. Southern Maryland is geographically closer to D.C., but still has those, Baltimore Orioles roots. And if this continues for several years, it could, but I don't think one World Series is really going to change that.
Yeah.
I mean, I think, you're thinking of like bandwagon fans who kind of, fair weather fans who follow, the team that's the most successful right now. I mean, the Orioles' biggest problem right now is just that they've been a terrible organization for the past couple of years, and it doesn't look so bright, at least for a while. They got some prospects, but they're not gonna be a great team again, I don't think, for a little while. And obviously now the Nats just won the World Series. They've been in the playoffs for
every year since like 2014
a lot.
Or something
the Nats have been in the playoffs a lot recently, and now they just won a World Series. So if you got fans who are kind of like those fair weather, they don't really have loyalty to either one, and they're in this area, then I mean they might, well, I don't know, they might start rooting for the Nats, I guess, over the Orioles. But
they could.
But I mean, obviously, the loyal fans are going to stick with their team.
Right.
So.
Right.
Yeah, it'll be interesting.
Self-admittedly, I am a Redskins fan, as much public shame that might bring me. But personally,
not as much public shame as if you were a Dolphins fan.
Well, that would just be embarrassing.
Or a Bengals fan.
But personally, I would never be a Ravens fan. They're from Baltimore. They're not my team, right? So I think most people who grew up as O's fans would probably feel the same way about the Nationals.
Okay. Do you guys want to talk NFL now? It's been 28 minutes talking World Series, and I think we covered a lot.
We covered a whole lot.
What's the Thursday night game tonight?
Arizona and San Francisco. It's at Arizona. So, San Francisco, real or not real, stay tuned.
I think San Francisco is still going to be undefeated after tonight.
I think they'll be undefeated after tonight, but every team after Arizona is above 500 that they're playing against.
Yeah, San Francisco and New England both have really tough schedules coming up over the next 5 weeks, I think.
Yeah.
So we'll see if either of them can stay undefeated. It's going to be tough. But I think San Francisco will stay undefeated after tonight. Arizona doesn't pose too much of a challenge.
And we have the Tank Bowl coming up as well. The Bengals and the Dolphins playing each other.
Who's going to get that first overall pick?
Yeah. So I think it'd be interesting to see the Bengals and the Redskins both get one win this year, and they both beat the Dolphins.
I don't think that game is until sometime in December, right? It's near the end of the season.
I don't know. Was it
I
not
think it's still.
Yeah, okay. My prediction is both teams are going to, the defenses aren't really going to play. They'll both drive it down the field, score a couple touchdowns. No field goals because that would require a defensive stop later down the field. And then very similar to the Dolphins' 2-point attempt with the Redskins. they will fumble the ball, quite literally.
Yeah, the Bengals are playing the Dolphins December 22nd, so it's still a while away.
We got plenty of time.
End of the season, so maybe one of those teams will have a win by then.
Who knows? It's not going to be the Dolphins. That's my prediction.
Let's talk about another interesting game, or let's talk about the Steelers. The Steelers actually they're
still in the hunt.
Yeah, they honestly are. Mason Rudolph has done a stable enough job to get the Steelers to 3-4.
I just want to go on the record and say that when Ben Roethlisberger got injured after Week 1, I said at the time Mason Rudolph will lead the Pittsburgh Steelers to the playoffs. So we'll see if I was right.
Okay, well, we would need evidence for that.
There's evidence. I have text message evidence.
Okay. I did not think that Mason Rudolph is going to lead them to the playoffs. Maybe 8-8, maybe 9-7.
9-7 could maybe get them in the playoffs. We'll see.
Maybe. It's going to be competitive. The Steelers have an easy schedule coming up. They face a lot of hard opponents. I can see 8 or 9 wins, but I don't think anything beyond that. Let's see, what else do we have? The Patriots-Ravens game. Oh, my God. That's like the best game of the week. Sunday night primetime. Tom, to avoid any bias here, I'm a Ravens fan. Max is a Patriots fan. Tom, who's got the victory for Ravens-Patriots? It's in Baltimore. Baltimore's coming off a bye week.
Mm-hmm.
And
it all depends on Lamar Jackson. Is he going to remain a double threat, right?
Right.
Is he going to be able to, get past the New England defense with his QBs, with his quarterback sneaks? Or are they just going to shut him down and he'll force to be a traditional quarterback and pass off the ball and throw it?
Yeah. So the one thing that Bill Belichick coach defenses have always done, the number one thing for a Bill Belichick coach defense is to shut down the opponent's number one weapon. What's the Ravens' number one weapon? Lamar Jackson running the ball. Mm-hmm. So Bill Belichick is going to make sure his defense does not allow Lamar Jackson to get out of the pocket and run haywire over his defense. He's going to make Lamar Jackson throw the ball. So can Lamar Jackson beat the Patriots defense throwing the ball in the pocket? We'll see.
So the Ravens have played all year with Lamar Jackson having that option every play. Just if the play falls apart, just run the ball past the line of scrimmage. It's that easy. But Bill Belichick is a world-class coach, arguably one of the best coaches of all time in the NFL.
The best coach of all time in any sport.
And
hey, I'm not the only person to say this. They were saying this on First Take the other day. I think it was Stephen A. Smith. He said Bill Belichick is... I think him and Max Kellerman both said Bill Belichick is the greatest coach in all sports history.
He's a real good coach. Let's leave it at that. And he will definitely be able to adapt his defense to Lamar Jackson. So it'll be interesting to see if they're able to overcome that.
I definitely think if Lamar Jackson gets any open field whatsoever, his speed is just going to absolutely dominate that Patriots defense. It doesn't really matter what kind of defense it is, actually, but if you find open field for Lamar Jackson, and he's going to make you pay, and it's going to be a really good game. I think the Ravens will definitely come out on top after a bye week and with 2 full weeks of rest. Sunday night, home game. John Harbaugh has beaten Belichick many times before, and their Ravens record in primetime home games is like 13-1 or something like that. Very, very good under John Harbaugh. So I'm encouraged to watch this game, and I'm encouraged to see who will prevail. I think it'll be low scoring. I think it's going to be a defensive game. I don't think Tom Brady has looked as good as he could be. And I think the Patriots offense looks not as electric as they could be. So I think it's going to be low scoring, 17-13 Baltimore.
Nick, I want to play a little game here. Because everyone knows that you as a Ravens fan and me as a Patriots fan are going to side with our respective teams in this argument.
Okay.
So I want you to tell me, what is your argument as to, if the Patriots are going to win the game, why do you think the Patriots would win the game? And then I'll tell you why I think the Ravens could win the game. So why do you think the Patriots could win the game?
The Patriots could win the game if they force turnovers.
Something they've been doing this year better than any other team.
Lamar Jackson had a huge turnover problem last year. but I think he's definitely worked on it a lot. I think he's got 2 or 3 picks on the season, and I don't think he has any fumble losses. Maybe 1 fumble loss. And compared to last year, Lamar Jackson was fumbling like twice every game, or intercepting or turnovers 2-3 times a game. And it was like, and our defense last year was so reliable. It's that they continued to step up, so the turnovers didn't kill us this much. Now we don't have as good of a defense, but Lamar Jackson stopped the turnovers. So if the Patriots get any momentum whatsoever, it's going to be their ability to force turnovers, and that's why they'll win.
So I think the 2 keys for me to a Ravens win in this game would be 1 on defense, stopping the Patriots' running game, and then number 2 on offense for the Ravens would be Lamar Jackson. It's all about Lamar Jackson. If Lamar Jackson can figure out a way to score enough points against that Patriots defense, whether it's by running or figuring out a way to dominate the Patriots' defensive backfield out of the pocket, I think that the Ravens could pull out a close win there. But if they can't do that, I think the Patriots are going to win the game. But I think the Ravens definitely have a shot.
Another big factor will be Justin Tucker for the Ravens is his kicking ability, because as you said, the Patriots defense,
the Ravens definitely have the kicking advantage in the game.
Yo, Nick Folk is a New England Patriot. Hello, Nick Folk. So, and he's on a short week. He just got signed yesterday. Is he gonna do any good to help the Patriots win this game? We have some callers calling in. Brendan and Alex, thank you for calling in. I'm gonna get to you guys as soon as I can, so I can put you on the line now if that's okay with you guys.
Yep.
Okay. On the line now is Brendan. Brendan, hello. You're on WMUC Sports Radio. What would you like to talk about?
Hey, what did you think of Bryce Harper's performance last night?
I'm sorry, Brendan. All right, say that again. I didn't hear you.
No. So what did you think of Bryce Harper's performance last night? I think he really brought it all together for the Nats.
Bryce Harper said he would bring a title back to DC.
His words of encouragement were such a big contributor to last night's victory. I thank Bryce Harper immensely.
Yeah, Bryce Harper said he would bring a title back to DC as soon as he signed with Philadelphia. So, I mean, the dude, and he helped the team by not being there. I guess.
We already talked about this. I think the team was actually better because he wasn't there.
Max and I are in agreement on this. Nick, you had other thoughts, but
I think
Harper is bad for clubhouse chemistry.
Yeah. I still think he would have won the series. I don't think he was that big of a clubhouse issue. Hothead, but you get those.
Also, what do you think about Boeing 737s?
Boeing 737s.
They're pretty small.
Yeah. So Tom was the computer scientist. He's actually programmed and worked on one of these before at his job 2 summers ago.
737?
On the 737, yeah.
Do you two know what's going on with the Boeing 737 MAX in the news? So they had a couple of...
Is Max trying to talk? I don't know.
Sorry?
Hello, Max.
Max's mic is horrible.
Okay, I'm hanging up on you now. Max, what about the Boeing 737?
Yeah, so it's been in the news because there were some major crashes where a lot of people died in some Boeing 737 MAX airplane crashes.
Oh, that was a couple years ago, right?
Well, yeah, but so the CEO, I think, of Boeing recently testified before the House of Representatives about how they essentially weren't giving their pilots all the information they needed to be able to avoid those crashes, and it resulted in hundreds of people dying.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't a sports issue, so I don't really know why we're talking about this, but it's a serious issue.
Right?
I was completely unaware, so I'm glad you know something about Boeing 737s.
Yeah.
Let's go to Alex Scott. Is he still on one?
Yeah, let's go back out on the phone lines. Alex Scott, you're coming on to WMUC Sports Radio, WMUC Sports Radio. What would you like to talk about? And he is picking up the phone right about now.
Hey.
Hey, Alex, what's going on?
Nothing much. How about you? Am I on the air?
Hell yeah, you're on the air. What would you like to talk about today?
Yeah. Wait, what'd you say?
What would you like to talk about today?
No, I already got my questions in. I just think it's a little bit unfair. It's almost like communist Russia that you'll burst into my apartment at 11 o'clock at night when I have to wake up at 6 in the morning to go do shit. And you're loud as fuck. You're screaming. You bring 2 more people. You don't have to just show up. And I try to call it on your radio show, and you put me to voicemail. Like,
Alex, while you're on the line, let's talk about an issue near and dear to our hearts.
Wait, Tom, would you say?
Well, while you're on the line, let's talk about an issue near and dear to our hearts, okay? How do you feel about College Park's new noise ordinance?
Wait. What'd you say, Tom? Say it again.
Alex, can you share your thoughts on College Park's new noise ordinance?
You got to give the phone to Tom. I literally can't hear.
How do you feel about College Park's new noise ordinance laws? I know you have a major stake in this. Can you just give us your thoughts?
The fines of this law are much greater than those of nepotism, which are the bedrock of our democracy, as said by the brilliant Tom Casey himself.
I'd have to agree with that, Alex. Thanks for your thoughts on that matter.
Now, what do you think?
I think you're absolutely right. And these fines, they're unfairly targeting students. I mean, students aren't a legally protected class of citizens, so there's no legal recourse for this. But I don't think it's morally okay that such a large demographic of College Park can be targeted like this.
No, I agree. I also personally believe that decibel limits are unconstitutional. I mean, could you fine a protest for being over the decibel limit? That's against the First Amendment.
Against the First Amendment, freedom of assembly, freedom of speech, whatever, you know?
Dude, College Park mayor for prison, 2019.
Well, Alex,
I said it here first.
Alex, I really appreciate you talking in. I'm sorry for my antics last night, but it's not like I do it every night. Maybe once a month or once every 2 weeks. I think you can deal with it because I was only there for like 20 or 30 minutes. Thank you for calling in, and I hope to have you back calling in next week.
All right, have a good one.
Hey, thanks, Alex.
My peace.
That was Alex Scott, everybody, the guy with 2 first names. Classic guy. Couldn't ask for a better person. He really needs to get on this radio show one day, and I would be happy to have him on. So, Alex, submit to me a proposal and an outline of what you want to talk about, and we can talk more.
Nick, I have a topic, if that's okay.
Let's go.
All right, so I want to get into the NBA a little bit.
So the Golden State, but it's not going to be very good with Tom and I here.
The Golden State Warriors this offseason lost Kevin Durant. Klay Thompson's out for the year with injury. Stephen Curry just fractured his hand. So pretty much all the Warriors have left in terms of star players.
Their starting 5 right there
is Draymond Green, D'Angelo Russell, and that's a bunch of role players essentially. So my question is this the end of the Warriors dynasty?
It might not be the end because they have a good fan base. It could be the end of it right now, and I'm sure it will be. They'll have at least 2 or 3 seasons to have to rebuild, and their record will probably not be.
Do you think the Warriors can make the playoffs this year without Stephen Curry, or at least for a little while? He just fractured his hand.
It's an entirely different
Klay
team.
Thompson and KD.
That's their entire starting guys right there.
3 of their best players are gone.
Yep.
It just comes down to beating the weaker teams, like making sure you get those wins, and maybe stretching for some wins as well. It's not important that you do great because a lot of NBA teams that are okay can be the 8th seed. And I think the Warriors have good coaching. I think they have a quality coach, and I think that they will be in the hunt. I can't guarantee a playoff, though.
I think this is the end of the Warriors dynasty. I think that Draymond Green is going to be traded before the NBA trade deadline this year. I don't think D'Angelo Russell is there long term. Stephen Curry, Klay Thompson, they'll be back at some point, but it's not going to be the same team that they were before. I think the Warriors are going to try and blow it up a little bit and start over,
Yeah, Ross says he thinks the dynasty's over because everyone's going to move to Los Angeles with LeBron, right? So any comment?
What do you mean
by
that?
Ross, what do you mean by that?
Is he saying that
He said, I think it's over because everyone is moving to L.A.
Moving to
the Lakers. And I forgot the other LA
Clippers.
team. The Clippers.
But who's moving? Does he mean like players are going to like
Ross, you need to be more specific.
Leave the Warriors and go to the Lakers and the Clippers?
That's what it looks like right now. He's got to be more specific. Waiting for.
I mean, I don't think the Lakers or Clippers have enough cap space to sign any more star players. So, but if he's saying fans are going to start rooting for the Lakers and Clippers over the Warriors, then I understand.
Ross, try and comment back, and we will be sure. But
basically, what I'm saying is, I think what the Warriors have been doing for the last however many years is over. I don't think they're making it back to the finals this year, and probably not in the next few years.
Ross also asked us, this is a completely different topic, while we wait for Ross to call in or respond about the comment he just made. Tom, Ross also asked, Tom, what was your favorite moment from the celebration? Definitely seeing the GOAT, Max Scherzer, so emotional was great.
Yeah, seeing Scherzer and I think it was Sanchez, just hugging it out. I think Sanchez was even crying. They were just saying, "We did it," and that's that's what makes the World Series so great. Is you fight for 162 games, and then you fight for the hardest month of these guys' lives to really achieve one of the greatest feats in sports. There are 32 teams. Only one of them can win the World Series. And, the Nationals did it against all odds. And it was just great to see that.
Not to, mess with your guys' World Series champions and vibe and all that, but the Detroit Tigers 2014 rotation was Max Scherzer, Justin Verlander, David Price, Anibal Sanchez, Rick Porcello. They are all World Series champions. And the Orioles swept that team, 3-0 into ALDS in 2014. They faced Scherzer, they faced Verlander, and I believe they faced Porcello or Sanchez. That team just was so good, but I don't know how the Orioles did it because the Orioles were not a very good 2014 team. They had a weak division that year. So I'm sorry for promoting the Orioles when they suck so bad right now, but I had to.
You had to get that off your chest.
I had to make sure you guys know that the Orioles swept the 2014 Detroit Tigers with that rotation.
They didn't win the World Series that year, though.
Well,
the Kansas City Royals actually.
The team is a lot more. The team is a lot more than their starting pitchers, though, right? I mean, the Tigers had Cabrera, I think, in 2014. Did they still have him?
They still have him now.
They had a few stars, and they had really incredible pitching, but. Beyond that, there wasn't much on the Tigers, right?
Miguel Cabrera, J.D. Martinez, a couple other hitters.
I think
they had B.J. Upton.
So now that we're back on baseball, the 2020 World Series odds came out today. So the top 9 teams I'll go through real quick.
Red Sox.
The Red Sox are on the list, so it's Astros number 1, followed by the Dodgers, the Yankees, the Braves, the Red Sox, the Cubs, the Indians, the Nationals, and the Phillies. What do you feel about that?
Cubs. I think the Phillies is a bold move.
Number 9.
Cubs and Phillies. Wait, what was the Cubs and Indians should not be on that list.
You don't think the Cubs or the Indians should be?
I think they should be either 8 and 9 or out of the top 10.
Twins aren't on there. That's a little surprising. I feel like the Twins might be
true.
Top 9 in terms of odds for next World Series.
Yeah, definitely. The Twins actually made the playoffs, if you don't remember them. They got swept by New York.
They won their division.
But the Twins were built off home runs, and that can only carry you so far. Mm-hmm. The Orioles were used to be built off home runs because of that small ballpark, and that only got them so far, and they eventually had to rebuild. So I don't know what the plans for the Twins are.
I think the Nationals are a little too low on this list. They got them at number 8 for World Series odds for next year.
Well, they just have so many variables with their personnel. Yeah, they're free agents. Strasburg's
I still think they should be higher than they should probably be higher than the Indians. I don't know about the Cubs. I mean, the Cubs might be like a whole new team next year with Joe Madden having left now, and they got David Ross. David Ross is coming in now as the new Cubs manager, so that'll be an interesting dynamic to see with him having been playing with those guys just 2 or 3 years ago, right? So
yeah, one thing I like about managers though, when I hire a manager, I don't want any emotional connection between the manager and the player.
Well, that's what you got with the Cubs now.
Yeah, I don't want that. I need a manager that sets the law. If you're not producing stats that I like to see, then you should be off the team, or you should go to AAA, or you shouldn't. You can't. But if you have this emotional connection, you feel the need to keep them on the team and to put them on the lineup. I hate that. Like, it should be business from a manager's standpoint.
I also think the Phillies are too high. I don't think they should be top 9 in terms of World Series odds for next year. They didn't really show anything to prove that they should be considered as contenders next year.
Yeah, I don't know about that team. They lost Andrew McCutchen, and David Robertson got a season-ending injury.
You know, another one that's kind of surprising that's not on here is the Brewers. What's going on with the Brewers?
Yeah, the Brewers
are they losing any players?
I'm not really sure. I don't know.
I don't know. The Brewers are...
The best part of the Brewers, I think, is their relievers. They have a great bullpen.
Mm-hmm.
Ross commented on the Dynasty Golden State Warriors, if you want me to read it.
Yeah.
So Ross says, Paul George, Anthony Davis, Kawhi, and LeBron are all in LA now.
Uh-huh.
And I think other players are going to want to join those teams. So that's why he thinks the Warriors dynasty is over.
Okay, so he's saying essentially the Lakers and the Clippers are like the teams of the league right now, and that they're overshadowing the Warriors so much now that the Warriors dynasty is essentially over because of that. I mean, I think that's part of it. I think part of it is that there's just teams out there now in the NBA that are better than the Warriors. So even if the Warriors had a healthy Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, and Draymond, they probably still might not be the best team in the league with the Lakers and the Clippers with what they have now. But now if you add in the fact that Klay Thompson's out for the year, Steph Curry fractured his hand, and KD's gone, the Warriors have almost nothing now. So I think they're out of the playoffs this year, and I think their dynasty is over. I think they're going to have to break the team up a little bit.
I think the Warriors have a good enough organization where even if they do lose some players this year and they're not going to win the championship this year, they'll come back because people know the stigma of this organization. They know what they've done in the past, and I think we'll get the Warriors. Everybody's going to want to play for Steve Kerr. Steve Kerr's a great coach.
So let's finish off by talking about football for a little bit.
Yeah, let's go for it. Any big idea questions that you want us to debate?
So we had, I know last time I was on the show, we had a discussion about who we thought were the front runners for MVP at the time.
Lamar Jackson, people.
You said Lamar Jackson. I'm sure you still believe it.
Lamar Jackson.
So at the time, I believe I said I thought it should be Russell Wilson.
Yeah, Ross said Russell Wilson too.
I have changed my mind since. I am on the Christian McCaffrey train.
Okay.
I think Christian McCaffrey right now is the NFL MVP. He's just having one of the most dominant seasons for a running back that I've ever seen, at least so far.
The NFL MVP is based off pure volume. Whoever achieves more yards in the receiving and running game, or whoever is the best leader.
I mean, Russell Wilson's obviously still in the mix, but
yeah, obviously Russell Wilson's still in the mix.
Some big news out of the NFL just the other day. J.J. Watt went down with a season-ending injury. How much do you think that's going to impact the Texans' chances this year?
I think their defense does suffer without J.J. Watt, just because you have to double cover him on the offensive line, but now you don't have to do that anymore. And every time J.J. Watt's been out, Houston's always struggled to do anything to win. That's one team I would like to see in the playoffs more often. Houston's a fun team to watch.
They just have a poor defense. Their offense can put up points, but...
Yeah, and Bill O'Brien was the offensive coordinator for the Patriots when Josh McDaniels was...
in Denver, I believe?
In Denver, yeah. So the fact that Bill Belichick gave Bill O'Brien the chance to be the offensive coordinator for Tom Brady is very, very noteworthy. And now he's the head coach of the Houston Texans. I think Bill O'Brien's a great coach. I just think the Houston Texans just need to take that one more step to being a mid-tier team to being a top-tier team.
So there's been a lot of talk recently with the news of Tom Brady selling his home and moving, about him either going to a different team after the season's over or possibly retiring.
That's just a bunch of paparazzi talk.
Yeah, I think it's a bunch of a bunch of baloney. I think there's a good chance that Brady could retire after the season's over, especially if they win another Super Bowl.
He's not at the top of his game right now. It's blatantly clear that.
But he's still like a top third quarterback. He's still quarterback number 10.
He's
still a good quarterback, but he's not the number one Tom Brady.
Tom Brady, not at the top of his game though, is still one of the best quarterbacks in football.
Very good quarterback because he's
top. I mean, yeah.
In the prime of his career, he was the best quarterback.
Plus, still, if you had to take any quarterback, one game, one drive to win you a championship right now, it's still going to be Tom Brady, I think, because he's got the experience. He's done it so many times before, and he's proven it time and time again. That 2-minute drill, who do you want leading you down the field? I wouldn't say Patrick Mahomes. He hasn't proven anything yet. He can run around and throw a football without looking. But Tom Brady has done it time and time again. So until he shows you that he's just not good anymore, which hasn't happened, Tom Brady's still really good, obviously. Until he shows you that he can't do it anymore.
Is he worth the amount that they're paying him? And does he want to be remembered as, the quarterback that won a bunch of Super Bowls, but, stayed too long? Just like
I'm
Brett
personally
Favre, right?
biased. I want to see Tom Brady in New England for as long as, until he retires.
But if you think about Brett Favre, you think about the fact that he stayed way too long. And played on way too many teams after the Packers.
I mean, honestly, after the Packers, when Brett Favre went to Minnesota, didn't he almost lead them to a Super Bowl?
Minnesota had a really good year. Right? 1 year, he had one really good year with.
He wasn't so good when he went to the Jets after that. But.
No,
and you just don't want to do. You don't want to go to the Jets, right? You don't want Tom Brady on the Jets, right? You don't. He doesn't want to be in that situation.
I mean, the thing is, a few years ago, when people were talking about should the Patriots let Tom Brady go and make Jimmy Garoppolo the face of their franchise for the future going forward, there were people who were saying, go with Jimmy G, and that's like what Belichick wanted. Belichick wanted to let Tom Brady go and go with Jimmy G for the foreseeable future, but Bob Kraft, obviously overruled him because he wanted TB12 to stay in New England for the rest of his career. And since that time, Tom Brady has already brought the Patriots back to 3 straight Super Bowls and won 2 of them. I mean, nobody knows if Jimmy G ever would have in his entire career won 2 Super Bowls. So I think that was the right decision, sticking with Tom Brady, despite his age, and I think they still should until he retires.
Yeah, I think Tom Brady's selling his home and doing all this stuff and
he's moving to Connecticut.
Contract.
It's not exactly.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I don't really take much notice to it. I definitely think Tom's not going to try and sign with another team and then if he has a bad season, everybody's going to say, he's a system quarterback. And
I mean, where's he going to go? You got these people on First Take saying he's going to go to Tennessee, going to go to Chicago. I mean, why is he going to go to Tennessee at this point in his career?
Why would he ruin everything his career was known to be in New England? He's not going to re-sign with another team. He's going to stay here as long as he wants to. And I definitely see age 45 Tom Brady.
Age 45, hey,
who knows, maybe. I don't think Brady... but what you're saying is that Tom Brady can't be a first-string quarterback in the NFL when he's 45, right? He'll have to be a second-string. And
Tom Brady's never going to accept a bench role.
Tom
Brady won't accept a bench role.
No, he won't. So he'll retire before that, right? But
if he's still good, though,
cannot physically.
Look at his stats right now. Tom Brady is probably arguably a Pro Bowler this season so far, based on his stats and his team's record. He's still having a really good season. He's
having a great, and he's still a great quarterback.
Yeah.
But
so if he's still doing this at 45 years old, why not start him? Just because of his age? I mean, we're in a new generation now where the technology and, stuff to keep him in shape is so much better that he could maybe still play at 45 at a high level. I mean, we don't know.
I think if Tom Brady keeps up with his treatment at the TB12 treatment center, I think he will be sustainable with his ability to play this long.
Yeah, I just hope he goes out on top.
It's definitely true.
It could still happen. It could happen this year.
It's kind of like training for the Olympics. Like Michael Phelps could have done one more Olympics, but he would have to train hard for 4 more years and won more medals.
Right, and he might not still be in his, the original form that he was. And that's the legacy you have.
Yeah, the thing is, Tom Brady still loves doing what he does. If he gets to a point where he doesn't love going to the gym every day and having to keep up that, physical ability, then he's going to retire. But he still loves doing what he does, and he still does it really well, obviously. So why not?
Yeah, Tom. And going back to Michael Phelps, he could have my point is he could have went to another Olympics, but it just was too much toll on his body and too much toll and mental health and physical health have to factor
and
into
that's
this.
Swimming. Football is a really tough game on your body. You're getting tackled by guys a lot bigger than you all the time.
Yeah, football is definitely going to be a tough sport, much more tougher than swimming. Swimming is probably like one of the safest, cleanest exercises for your joints and every muscle in between. Okay, well, that is all the time we have for today at WMUC Sports Radio. This is Anything Goes. Thank you for tuning in, and thank you for the comments. We really appreciate it. Anything else you guys want to say before we sign off?
Thanks for listening. Tune in next Thursday, 6 to 7 p.m.
Go Nats.
Yeah. Congratulations, Nationals. You are the 2019 World Series champion. Enjoy it, and I will see you at the parade on Saturday.